For a little over a decade, Reese Witherspoon and Jim Toth have been part of one of Hollywood's cutest and most stable marriages. Their relationship was a whirlwind in the beginning, and since then, they've seemed nothing but happy. They've been mastering the marriage game since they tied the knot in 2011. But 2 years later, the couple was arrested for driving under the influence and disobeying the officer's orders. Reese has long been one of America's sweethearts. She made her debut in 1991 as a child actor in the coming-of-age film Man in the Moon, and from there she was adored. She gained popularity over the years, and how could we forget one of her most notable characters, Elle Woods, in the Legally Blonde film franchise. Witherspoon has had to navigate Hollywood from a very young age.
I do know what makes a good movie. I've been standing on movie sets since I was 14 years old.
Although it has bought her several accolades, including 2 Golden Globes, an Academy Award, an Emmy, and more, it has also brought her heartbreak. The actress married a fellow actor, Phillippe, in 1999, and their marriage came to an end just 7 years later. The couple shares 2 children together, daughter Ava and son Deacon. Their kids are now both in their early 20s and were very young when their parents divorced. The exes spoke on the reasons behind their split, and both say it was due to being too young to navigate marriage and Hollywood.
I think more of the problem was age, when we got together so young.
After the divorce, she went on to date Jake Gyllenhaal for 2 years, and in 2009 they also parted ways. But just a couple of months later, Reese met her now husband Jim Toth. Jim is not on the small screen or big screen in any way. But just because he isn't famous doesn't mean he's not still an extremely influential person in Hollywood. He had a 23-year-long career as a talent agent at the Creative Artists Agency, which housed stars like Matthew McConaughey, Scarlett Johansson, Jamie Foxx, Neil Patrick Harris, Chris Evans, and more. Jim was the one who represented these big names throughout his career. Witherspoon has spoken about how different it is for her to be with someone who is a non-celebrity and she loves. In part because they were left alone to get to know each other in a more private way. It may not be easier in any way because their relationship still has its own dynamic. She said, "I don't want to disparage any of the other relationships that I've had that were meaningful and wonderful. But what I'm finding out is that it's very comfortable to be with somebody who understands my career, but doesn't do what I do." Their love story began at a mutual friend's party when Jim came to Reese's rescue when a very drunk man got in her face. The drunk man started hitting on her and making a fool of himself. He was slurring, scowling, and pointing a finger in her face, screaming, "You don't know me." And Reese was like, "Yeah, I know. I don't know you." It was then that Toth went over, asking Witherspoon to please excuse his friend because he has just broken up with someone, and that was why he was so drunk. Reese recalled, "Jim was a really good friend, pulling him out of that situation. That's just kind of who he is, a really good person." The pair immediately hit it off, and after quietly dating for a few months, Reese introduced Jim to her friends on a getaway trip for her birthday in Ojai, California. He must have gotten the seal of approval from her nearest and dearest because it was on that trip that they went public with their relationship. Not long afterward, he met her kids, Ava and Deacon, at a church service during Easter weekend. Things between the couple got serious quickly, and after less than a year of dating, Jim proposed to Reese. A little while after that, they tied the knot in March 2011. They had an intimate and low-key ceremony at Reese's $7 million estate in Ojai. The actor wore a custom-designed gown, and celebrity attendees included Matthew McConaughey, Renee Zellweger, Tobey Maguire, Robert Downey Jr., and Selma Hayek. Witherspoon's daughter Ava was her maid of honor and also wore a custom dress. The nuptials were rustic, featuring a wood plank dance floor and deliberately mismatched furniture, and they had 80 white doves released after the couple exchanged vows. The newlyweds were beaming all night long. Definitely not a low-key ceremony if you ask us.
We had a really good time.
After getting married, Jim became the stepfather to Ava and Deacon. She spoke about how great Jim was with the kids, saying, "I got lucky. I did. I got very lucky. He's so wonderful with the children. I'm very blessed." A year after the wedding, the couple confirmed that they were expecting their first child. Reese gave birth to a baby boy, Tennessee James Toth, in September 2012. Reese spoke about what makes Jim such a great husband and dad. He's an incredible man, a wonderful organizer, a great leader. He's very patient and funny with the kids, and he really encourages them to see the humor in life. But not everything was rainbows and sunshine. She is basically America's sweetheart, and it's hard to imagine her getting into trouble with the law. But that's exactly what happened when she and her husband were arrested in 2013, just a year after they had their son. The two were pulled over after their car was seen weaving across a double line while driving down the street in Atlanta, Georgia, in the early hours of the morning. Witherspoon and Toth were both briefly jailed under the suspicion of driving while intoxicated and disorderly conduct. Witherspoon was handcuffed after she disobeyed instructions from the officer and even tried to argue with the cop about who she was and told him he was about to find out who I am. They both pleaded no contest in court. Witherspoon was ordered to pay a fine of $213, and Toth was sentenced to 40 hours of community service, 12 months of probation, and ordered to enroll in an alcohol education program. Even worse for the actress, video footage of her arrest was leaked online for the world to see.
Do you know my name, sir?
Don't need to know.
You don't need to know my name?
Not quite yet. I'll get that
really?
information.
Okay. You're about to find out who I am.
Soon after the arrest, the Big Little Lies actress issued an apology and said, "I clearly had one drink too many and I am deeply embarrassed about the things I said. It was definitely a scary situation and I was frightened for my husband, but that is no excuse. I was disrespectful to the officer who was just doing his job. The words I used that night definitely do not reflect who I am. I have nothing but respect for the police and I am very sorry for my behavior." She was then asked in an interview about the arrest and admitted that she did something really stupid and said, "But you know what? Turns out I breathe air. I bleed the same way. I make dumb decisions. I make great decisions. I'm just a human being." The couple had one mishap that was publicized to the world and were ashamed of themselves for it, but didn't let that define them. They have a relationship that is filled with immense love, support, and a lot of laughter. In one sentence, they described their life together as filled with big love, lots of laughing, non-stop travel, so many dogs, and fun adventures. Reese talked about how she never thought she would get married again before meeting Jim. Jim had said to her, "I'm going to show you every day what a good partner is, what a good person is. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to do this so much that you're going to get used to it." He swept her off her feet and made her feel safe, cared for, and loved. Jim also has a way of inspiring his wife to do bigger and better things. She recently took an increasingly powerful role behind the camera and has started developing and producing a number of acclaimed projects, including Big Little Lies and The Morning Show.
It's a really beautiful experience.
It was her husband that encouraged her to make this shift. He said in a conversation with her, "You should produce movies. You read more books than anybody I know. You should just buy some of them and turn them into films." In 2016, Witherspoon formed the Hello Sunshine production company with Toth as a partner.
I've always really gravitated towards female authors and women at the center of novels. So I started optioning some of them and turning them into movies. And then I just started sharing all the books that I've read because I read a lot and I love the effect that it has on the authors. That's really cool.
In 2021, fans woke up to shocking news that the actress was selling the company she had worked so hard to build up for 5 years. Many speculated that the reason behind it was that she and Jim were having marital problems and were planning on getting a divorce. That was, of course, just that, speculation. The pair sold the majority of their shares in the company for an insane amount of $900 million. Her character, Elle Woods, would be proud. It was also mentioned that if either party decides to get divorced, which is not yet a certainty, they will be walking away with a huge pile of cash. But the couple still holds an 18% stake in the company, and the legally blonde actress still holds an important role on the board. She spoke on the sale, saying, "I am committed to continuing to create opportunities for filmmakers, authors, and creators of all backgrounds and experiences to tell their stories in their own way, and reach more audiences who will see that their stories matter." It's clear that Reese only saw this sale as an opportunity to move her dreams and projects forward. She praises her husband for always supporting her, encouraging her, and inspiring her to chase her dreams. Witherspoon notes that he is one of the biggest reasons behind her success. This couple has built a beautiful blended family, a wonderful marriage, and a very successful business. They are full of love and respect for one another. The pair is focused on building a happy and fulfilling life for their children, and they have big things planned for the future that may include a lot more dogs. Stay tuned to Rumour Juice for more.